You know that feeling when you're sitting in a really expensive restaurant and the waiter looks at you like you just crawled out of a dumpster? Yeah, multiply that by about 1,000 and you'll get close to the vibe in the Galactic Council chamber on any given Tuesday. Ambassador Marcus Chin stood in the center of the crystalline auditorium, surrounded by what could only be described as the universe's most self-important book club. Seriously, these beings had mastered the art of looking down their noses at you, even the ones who didn't technically have noses. Or faces, for that matter. High Counselor HFY, a beetle-like creature who probably spent 3 hours polishing his carapace every morning, cleared his throat with a sound like gravel in a blender. Ambassador Chen of the human species, he began, his translator making him sound like a disappointed headmaster, we have reached a decision regarding your planet's continued participation in galactic affairs. Oh goody, Marcus thought, keeping his face diplomatically neutral. A decision. Because that never means anything terrible. After careful deliberation spanning 47 cycles, HFY continued, because apparently even their sentences needed to be pompous, the Council has determined that Earth and its inhabitants pose an unacceptable risk to the established order of civilized space. Marcus blinked. Once. Twice. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I think my translator just had a stroke. Your species is hereby banished from all Council territories, effective immediately. HFY somehow managed to look even smugger, which Marcus hadn't thought was physically possible. You have 30 standard days to remove all human presence from Council-affiliated space stations, trade routes, and diplomatic outposts. Around the chamber, various alien delegates nodded their approximations of heads, looking absolutely delighted with themselves. The Glornak ambassador was practically vibrating with joy, all 6 of his eye stalks quivering. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. On what grounds, exactly? HFY's mandibles clicked together in what Marcus had learned to recognize as the alien equivalent of a shark's smile. Oh, the beetle had been waiting for this question. He produced a holographic scroll that unfurled dramatically, floating in the air like the universe's most pretentious grocery list. The charges are extensive, HFY announced, clearly relishing every word. Firstly, humanity has demonstrated repeated acts of aggressive behavior in diplomatic situations. We defended ourselves when the Krell opened fire on our mining outpost, Marcus interjected flatly. You destroyed 3 of their warships. They shot first. HFY waved a chitinous appendage dismissively. Secondly, your species shows a disturbing tendency toward creative problem-solving that violates established protocols. Marcus felt his eye twitch. I'm sorry, creative problem-solving is a crime now? When Engineer Rodriguez bypassed our quantum stabilizers to repair the Andromeda Gate in under 4 hours, he utilized methods not approved by the Council Safety Committee. The way HFY said, Safety Committee, made it sound like a holy order. The approved repair procedure required 6 weeks. The gate was about to collapse and strand 40,000 beings in dead space, Marcus said, his voice getting dangerously quiet. Rodriguez saved their lives. Through unapproved means, countered Counselor Threen, a gaseous entity who somehow managed to sound condescending even through a voice synthesizer. This is precisely the problem. Humans consistently ignore proper channels. Marcus clenched his fists behind his back. These people, and he used that term loosely, were actually upset that humanity kept solving problems they'd spent centuries declaring unsolvable. HFY continued reading from his list of grievances. Furthermore, human traders have been undercutting established pricing structures, human scientists have published research contradicting Council-approved theories, and human entertainment has been deemed corrupting traditional cultural values across 47 member species. Let me guess, Marcus said. The Zafrani youth discovered rock music? This is not a laughing matter, HFY snapped. Your species has been part of galactic society for merely 73 standard years, yet you act as though millennia of established tradition mean nothing. You question everything, ignore warnings, and somehow survive situations that should have eliminated you. So we're being punished for not dying when you expected us to. You are being removed because you refuse to accept your place in the natural order. Exile retracted the holographic scroll with a flourish. The council has spoken. 30 days, Ambassador Chen. Gather your people and retreat to your isolated little corner of the galaxy. Perhaps in a few thousand years, humanity will have matured enough to rejoin civilized society. The chamber erupted in approving clicks, hums, and whistles. Marcus stood there, watching the galaxy's so-called leaders congratulate themselves on kicking out the rowdy newcomers. Fine, he thought. Absolutely fine. The trip back to Earth gave Marcus plenty of time to rehearse his report. Somehow, "Hey boss, we got kicked out of the galaxy," seemed insufficient. No matter how he phrased it, President Kamala Okonkwo listened to his entire briefing without interrupting, her fingers steepled under her chin. When he finished, she leaned back in her chair and did something Marcus hadn't expected. She laughed, not a polite chuckle either. A full, genuine belly laugh that echoed through the Oval Office. "They actually did it," she said, wiping her eyes. "They actually thought banishing us would work." Marcus blinked. "Madam President, with all due respect, this is a serious situation." "Oh, I know." Okonkwo's grin was downright predatory. "Marcus, do you know what humanity's best talent is? And I don't mean space travel or quantum physics. I mean our real superpower. Being told we can't do something?" "Exactly." She stood up, walking to the window overlooking the Capitol. The Church told Galileo he couldn't say Earth revolved around the sun. The British told the colonists they couldn't govern themselves. Experts said we couldn't break the sound barrier, couldn't reach the moon, couldn't crack faster-than-light travel. Every single time, someone very important and very certain told humanity, "No, you can't." And every single time, we did it anyway. With style, Okonkwo added. She turned back to him, eyes gleaming. "Get me Dr. Tanaka from the Skunk Works Division, Commander O'Brien from Special Operations, and Director Zhao from Intelligence. Also, contact every human currently scattered across Council space. Tell them to pack up, but tell them to take their time doing it." "Madam President?" "We have 30 days, Marcus. That's 29 days more than we need." She smiled that smile that had intimidated world leaders and alien diplomats alike. "It's time to show the Galactic Council why you never, ever bet against human stubbornness." Within 6 hours, Earth's conference rooms were packed with the finest minds humanity had to offer, all wearing the same expression, vindictive glee. The plan began to take shape, and it was beautiful. The recall order went out across every human-occupied station, outpost, and embassy in Council space. To the casual observer, it looked like a panicked evacuation. Humans scrambling to pack up their belongings, frantically booking passage home, looking thoroughly dejected. The casual observer would have been an idiot. Every human trader, diplomat, scientist, and maintenance worker knew exactly what they were doing. They moved slowly, deliberately, making a big show of their struggle to organize transport. Meanwhile, they were cataloging everything. Every trade route, every resource depot, every single weak point in the Council's infrastructure. Humans had gotten very good at multitasking over the millennia. Back on Earth, Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood in front of a room full of scientists who looked like kids on Christmas morning. "All right people, remember those projects the Council told us were impossible? The ones we've been working on anyway because we're humans and spite is our primary fuel source?" Laughter rippled through the room. "Time to roll them out. Chen, how's the independent FTL relay network?" A young engineer grinned. "We've got 17,000 microrelays ready to deploy. They're faster, smaller, and use a tenth of the power of Council gates. Been testing them in the Kuiper Belt for 3 years. Yamamoto, Medical Division? The cellular regeneration treatment is ready for mass production. Also that cancer cure the Glornak said violated natural law." She shrugged. "Turns out natural law is more like natural suggestion." Tanaka's smile was absolutely feral. "Perfect. Start production immediately. Across town, Commander James O'Brien was having a similar meeting with significantly more weapons involved. Listen up. We're not starting a war, but we're going to make damn sure everyone knows we could if we wanted to. Deploy the stealth satellite network around every major council world. Don't activate them, just get them in position. Sir, won't they detect the launches? O'Brien's laugh could have stripped paint. They've been in position for 2 years. I'm just saying move them to active standby. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, aliens were having the time of their lives watching humanity's downfall. The betting pools on how quickly Earth's economy would collapse were astronomical. The Glornak were giving humans 6 months. The optimistic Zafrani said maybe a year. The Vryn, a species who'd been marginalized by the Council for centuries, stayed conspicuously quiet. They'd been talking to humans. They knew better. On Council stations, departing human engineers made sure to do one last favor before leaving. They fixed things. Quietly upgraded systems. Left behind little improvements that the Council maintenance crews would discover later, much later. Those same crews would realize the improvements came with backdoors. Oops. 30 days, the Council had said. Humanity was going to make every single one of them count. Day 8 of humanity's banishment, the galaxy woke up to something unexpected, humans everywhere, not on Council stations, obviously. Humanity was being obedient, see? All packed up and gone, just like ordered. But suddenly, human vessels were appearing in independent systems, frontier worlds, and neutral zones that the Council had always considered too remote or unprofitable to bother with, and they weren't using Council jump gates. Captain Lisa Torres brought her merchant vessel, the Defiant Prophet, out of FTL right in the middle of the Talaxian trade corridor, a region the Council had always claimed was impossible to reach without their gate network. Her comms immediately lit up with confused hails. Unknown vessel, how did you arrive here? There is no gate within 40 light years. Torres grinned at her crew. Should we tell them? Nah, let them sweat. Within hours, human ships were popping up everywhere simultaneously. The fringe worlds that paid exorbitant fees to use Council gates suddenly had an alternative. And humans, bless their capitalist hearts, were offering transport at half the Council's rates. The Talaxian Merchant Guild sent an encrypted message to Torres within 3 hours. How much for access to your gate technology? Gate technology? Torres replied innocently. We don't use gates. We use relays. Smaller, faster, and we're happy to install them for our trading partners. No membership fees, no Council approval needed. Just good old-fashioned business. The confusion spread like wildfire. On the Council homeworlds, analysts were frantically trying to figure out how humanity had developed independent FTL infrastructure without anyone noticing. The answer, of course, was that humans were excellent at being underestimated. By day 10, the emergency Council session was in full panic mode. This is impossible. Councillor Threen's gaseous form was literally vibrating with agitation. Our intelligence said humans were decades away from independent jump technology. Your intelligence, Marcus said from Earth via hologram, because yes, they'd invited him to watch the meltdown, assumed we'd share everything we were working on. Silly us for having secrets. Zwexlar's carapace had lost its usual polish. You are violating trade agreements. We were banished, remember? Can't violate agreements we're no longer part of. Marcus's smile could have cut glass. We're just doing business with non-Council worlds. You know, the ones you've been ignoring for centuries because they couldn't afford your ridiculous gate fees. The Council chamber erupted in angry chittering, humming, and what might have been cursing in 17 different languages. This is only the beginning, Marcus added cheerfully. Week 1, folks. We've got 3 more weeks of surprises lined up. Enjoy the ride. He disconnected, leaving the Council to their existential crisis. Back on Earth, President Okonkwo raised her coffee mug in salute. Week 2, let's break their healthcare system. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's press conference on day 14 was broadcast across every independent network in the galaxy. The Council tried to block it. They failed, mostly because human hackers were very good at their jobs and found the whole situation hilarious. "Good morning, sentient beings of all types," Tanaka began, her smile warm and professional. "Today, I'm pleased to announce that humanity is releasing several medical treatments to the galactic community. Free of charge for the first year." She held up a small vial. "This is a universal cellular regeneration serum. It cures what the Council calls Krellian wasting disease. They said it was incurable. They were wrong." She set it down and picked up another. "This one eliminates Zafrani scale rot in approximately 6 hours. The Council said it violated natural biological processes. Turns out biology doesn't care about politics." The floodgates opened. Within 48 hours, Earth's communications network was overwhelmed with contact requests. Small species, marginalized worlds, colonies that the Council had written off as too expensive to help. They all wanted the treatments. They all wanted to talk. The VRWNN were first to make it official. Ambassador KRRSH, their reptilian diplomat, stood beside President Okonkwo at a joint press conference that made the Council's collective blood pressure skyrocket. "The VRWNN Union is proud to announce a formal alliance with humanity," KRRSH announced, her translator catching the triumphant hiss in her voice. "We have been dismissed by the Council for 300 years for being too aggressive, too unconventional, too unwilling to follow their precious protocols." Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Okonkwo's laugh was pure satisfaction. Sounds like they have a type. By day 16, the Council was desperate. They imposed economic sanctions on any world that traded with humanity. It was possibly the dumbest move they could have made. 17 minor species immediately declared independence from the Council and signed trade agreements with Earth. The Talaxian Merchant Guild publicly told the Council where they could stick their sanctions. 3 major corporations relocated their headquarters to human-protected space. The Galactic Stock Exchange was in freefall. Council bonds? Worthless. Council currency? Plummeting. Meanwhile, Earth's credit was surging, and human goods were suddenly the most sought-after commodities in known space. ZYXLR called another emergency session on day 19. "This is economic warfare," he screeched. Marcus, attending remotely again because he was absolutely loving this, raised an eyebrow. "This is free market capitalism. You banished us, remember? We're just doing our own thing. Not our fault everyone likes our thing better than your thing. You are deliberately undermining Council authority. We're offering better products at better prices with better service. That's called competition." Marcus leaned forward. "Maybe if you'd spent less time being pompous and more time innovating, you wouldn't be in this mess." The Council had 11 days left. They were already broken. Day 30. The deadline. Marcus Chen walked into the Galactic Council chamber with the swagger of a man who just won poker using nothing but a pair of twos and pure audacity. The crystalline auditorium that had once intimidated him now felt like a high school principal's office, and he was the kid who'd just proven the principal wrong about everything. ZYXLR looked like he hadn't polished his carapace in weeks. Counselor Threen's gaseous form kept flickering like a bad holoscreen. Around the chamber, the various delegates looked somewhere between furious and terrified. "Ambassador Chen," ZYXLR began, his voice missing all its previous pomposity. "We have called this emergency session to discuss the possibility of renegotiating Earth status." "Oh, have you now?" Marcus settled into the speaker's platform like it was a throne. "That's funny, because 30 days ago, you said humanity was an unacceptable risk to civilized space. Something change your mind? The 17 species that left your alliance? The complete collapse of your transportation monopoly? Or was it the medical cures that you said were impossible? The Council acknowledges that perhaps we were hasty in our assessment," Threen managed, which had to be physically painful for them to admit. "Hasty. Right." Marcus pulled out a data pad. Let's talk numbers, shall we? In the past 30 days, human trade agreements have been signed with 43 independent worlds. The VRWN Union, the Talaxian Merchant Guild, and the Korvax Collective have all entered formal alliances with Earth. Your gate network traffic is down 67%. And here's my personal favorite, the betting pools on how fast humanity would collapse. Turns out the House lost spectacularly. A few delegates had the decency to look embarrassed. But here's the really interesting part, Marcus continued, his smile sharpening. While investigating our new partners, we discovered something fascinating. Counselor Gresh, would you like to tell everyone about the medical supplies you've been secretly purchasing from human traders for the past 2 weeks? The Glornak ambassador's eye stalks drooped in shame. And Counselor Vorin, those FTL relays your mining operations just installed, those look familiar to anyone? Marcus counted silently. By the time he hit 10, he'd publicly exposed half the council for already doing business with humanity behind closed doors. So here's Earth's counteroffer, he said, letting the silence stretch. We create a new alliance structure. Open membership, no species gets veto power over another, and decisions are made by actual democratic vote instead of this oligarchy situation you've got going. Fair trade, shared technology, mutual defense, and absolutely zero tolerance for the kind of pompous gatekeeping that got us here in the first place. You cannot simply dissolve the council, Zwexlar protested weakly. Watch us. Marcus gestured to the chamber. All in favor of the new galactic partnership, as opposed to continuing with the current council structure that's already falling apart? The vote wasn't even close. 37 species voted for the partnership. 5 voted to maintain the council. 3 abstained, probably out of spite. Zwexlar sat in stunned silence as centuries of established order crumbled around him. His mandibles clicked uselessly, searching for words that wouldn't come. Marcus almost felt bad for him. Almost. Don't worry, Marcus said, patting the console as he prepared to leave. I'm sure there's a place for you in the new structure. Maybe start with something entry-level. Work your way up. Prove yourself, you know. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. 6 months after the council's spectacular implosion, Marcus Chen found himself back in the same crystalline chamber, newly renovated and renamed the Partnership Hall. The irony wasn't lost on him, the Galactic Partnership was thriving in ways the old council never had. Turns out when you stop hoarding technology and actually let species cooperate as equals, amazing things happen. Who knew? Trade routes that had taken weeks now took days. Diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia were gone. 3 new species had achieved FTL capability with human assistance. The VRWN had just opened a joint research facility with Earth that was already producing breakthrough after breakthrough, and the former council members? Well, they were adjusting. Counselor 3 now chaired the partnership's energy committee, where they actually had to listen to other species' ideas. The horror. Counselor Gresh had become an enthusiastic advocate for human medical technology, conveniently forgetting he'd once called it dangerous and unnatural, but the absolute best part, the cherry on top of humanity's vindication sundae, was Zwexlar. Marcus spotted him across the hall during a recess, and had to physically stop himself from laughing. The former High Counselor, who'd spent decades perfecting his image of untouchable superiority, was wearing human blue jeans, actual denim. With a button-down shirt. Looking thoroughly uncomfortable but trying to appear casual, their eyes met. Zwexlar's mandibles twitched in what might have been embarrassment. Marcus raised his coffee cup in a mock salute. Nice jeans, he called out. Zwexlar scuttled away quickly, his carapace somehow managing to look flushed. President Okonkwo appeared at Marcus's elbow, following his gaze. Is that, yep. Are those, oh yes. They stood there for a moment, savoring the view. You know what the best part is? Marcus said finally. He asked our trade representative where to buy them. Politely. Okonkwo snorted into her own coffee. Did we ever figure out what humanity's real superpower is? Marcus grinned. Being told we can't do something. And then doing it anyway, she finished. With style, they said together, across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, beings of every species were learning the same lesson the Council had learned the hard way. Never, ever bet against human stubbornness. Because humans don't just prove you wrong, they prove you wrong, take over your job, do it better, and then sell you the t-shirt commemorating your failure, and sometimes, apparently, the jeans too.